Hello and welcome to the Level Up Lounge. It's just me today and I'm in a different studio as you will see, but I'm really excited to record this episode and we're joined today by Kristina Frolova-Lasenko, who is the managing partner at Game.Activation. So, Kristina, thank you very much for joining us today.
Wow,
or
thank
joining
you.
me, shall I say.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I saw all of your episodes and it was great to see a couple of my friends there. And I think you guys doing a great job of, unpacking the personalities who are beyond actually making change in the region. I love it.
Good, and the fact that you've watched them and still want to come on the show is that's a plus for me as well. So
I was definitely excited. So let's do it. Yeah.
Good. So firstly, I kind of wanted to understand your background because we've had a brief chat and we know each other, but you've got a very non-traditional background for someone who's so active in the games industry right now.
That's
I
right.
kind of want to just explore that with you and understand how have you ended up doing what you're doing right now?
Do you want a long story or a short story?
We'll go with the shortish story, shall we say, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's not that traditional because usually you would hear people saying that I was passionate about gaming, so I wanted to build a gaming studio or be in the gaming industry. So for me, gaming, it's not just the gaming we know it today in terms of the great, amazing games products people engage with. But I see gaming as a future, as a way of engaging in general. So that's why I'm so much involved in both AI and gaming. And then in general, all started, my mom actually was a teacher. And then when she did her thesis was around the, play and how you learn things through the play. When I got a bit older, I was a teenager, somehow got excited about behavioral science and why people make decisions the way they do. And then when I found myself, when I was, 11, 12, playing Sims, I was like, wait a second, that's addictive. What is it making this so addictive? So I literally made a matrix of all of the elements within the game and, emotional hooks, what I felt like through the play. I didn't go directly to gaming. I've joined gaming sector in 2015. And at that time, I was back at Google. I was leading the business development in actually emerging markets. So since then, I started to work with Middle East. And for me, gaming was very much strategic decision because once we moved from web to mobile and I saw the race of mobile games, I felt that the gaming going to be the future and it's going to be everywhere, not only in the gaming as a sector, in e-commerce, in fintech. So that's how I started it. So back then we were covering all of the different clients in emerging markets, 27 markets. So all of the different clients which are across all sectors. And then we realized we need to support gaming and not just at that time, of course, the gaming company was great and getting great support, but nobody really was taking care of the small studios.
Yeah.
And this is actually where my passion is at. It's actually finding those gems where they're just at the, tech launch stage or yet not having any benchmarks and helping them to scale. So down the line, 2018, Meta approached me and they offered me activation role to actually activate the mobile gaming in Europe. And that's what I was doing. Actually, this was the period of time. It was for 3 years. I was primarily focused on finding those gems, helping them, skyrocket their game launch. And then down the line, if we look back, a couple of them, 7 of them made exits already to the larger studios. Some of them are still on top charts as the most, played, downloaded games. So that's how I came to gaming,
No, it's interesting because you mentioned behavioural science there, and I don't think that when you're not really in the industry and you don't overthink it,
yeah,
behavioural science is such a big part of gaming. There's always something to trigger an emotion, trigger a response, make you click on a certain button, and I don't think that we talked to a few people and that's what's driven them into gaming. That is the behavioural part of it.
Yeah.
Is what is so intriguing to them, and how you can make somebody make a certain decision within a game. I suppose it relates to everything nowadays. If you go on Amazon, all them recommendations down the side, a button being a certain size, certain colour, certain font, it's all to trigger that something in your brain to make you act the way that they want to.
Yeah.
Manipulation, shall we call it, in that sense.
Well, the life is a game, right? So, you take the right choices, you kind of get some perks. And if you don't, then you kind of roll back and then you need to go through the things. And sometimes you meet people who are like, give you the shortcuts. You get tired, you lose the energy. So our brain has 34 cognitive errors. So in marketing, it's been used for decades. However, it's not such a new science. So it's actually even the latest ones were discovered still 10 years ago or so. In gaming, what's beautiful about gaming, it's all about subconsciousness. You literally play with the people's subconsciousness in terms of what drives them, because the same game could be, and this is actually how it works, same game have different emotional hooks, which works for different people. So for your game to become successful business, not just a passion product, but the actual business, it needs to have at least 3 or 4. It can be strategy, it can be progress, it can be socials, it can be, the customization, for instance, right? So, and you're right, even though if you look at all of the, big companies and products outside of the gaming, we can see the signs of it. However, we still, I believe, as a whole tech industry, we're still 1% done with injecting the gamification. So many more things can be done, starting from very basic, leaderboards and progress bars. Did you know that people cannot physically stand when they see the progress bar unfinished? This is one of the actually behavioral, tricks which our brain is playing with us. So, and therefore, for the industry, of course, it's first of all very important for the people with a good ethics to be in the industry, because you can use it both ways, right? But in the same time, for people who play, to be aware what's happening, to be cautious of, even though the gaming is all about how to move you from consciousness to unconsciousness, right?
And no, it was funny. I watched the new episode of the TV show on Apple TV, Mythic Quest.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
It's based on a game development studio. I'm on season 4 now.
Okay.
And the monetization guy in the TV series, he's very depicted as this evil individual, and he goes to jail, and he's there for just cheating people out their money. And it's kind of that spin on the fact that the monetization part does play on the subconscious, and it's extracting as much as you can out of the player. So when you mentioned there about you got to have the people with the right ethics in the industry for certain positions and certain roles, and it kind of relays onto what they were putting into that show. But
100%.
You touched a little bit on there. Obviously, you've worked for the likes of your Googles and your Facebooks and your Metas in predominantly sort of game activation roles. So I think that now what made you sort of move away from that and start venturing on your own? Because, again, a lot of people working for these big brands, they're dream roles in a way. They kind of hit the top of the charts if we're talking about leaderboards by being at one of those companies. For you to take then the plunge from that and go, I'm going to go off in my own direction. What drove that change?
Oh, good one. So if I look at my corporate career, gaming was a big part, but in general, I'm actually a growth hacker. Yeah. So I'm all about, expansion, relationships, ecosystem building. And Meta, for instance, my last role at Meta was fantastic. My team was incredible. I still in great contact with everyone. We do have actually projects together right now. But I actually, when I was leaving to build my own AI startup, not even in gaming.
Okay.
And it was all around behavioral science. So, and this is how I moved to Middle East, because I needed to launch the business to the community which is most diverse. So then we have a great set of data, and we work with a zero and first party data. So it wasn't, we didn't need to acquire, big amount of mass of data. And then this is how I came to the region. I was in the shoes of the founder, went through building the team, fundraising, building my own name here. And therefore, I guess now when I work with founders at different scale, business is a different scale, I have this empathy to understand what they're going through and to know how it's important for someone to believe in you when you are not yet superstar.
Yeah.
When you are not yet on the podcast, when you don't have the big team yet, because this is the time when you need the most help. And therefore, activation for me now, and I actually moved from, being a founder for the tech startups into more enabling the region. because I feel like I can give more when I work in this form of one to many. And because, when we think of activation, it's a lot of things, right? It's a product, it's a technology, it's relationships, it's understanding of the culture, the nuances. So, and I love the fact that I found, opportunity to be who I am and what I love actually here in Middle East, because it was between Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Riyadh. So I just love helping businesses, organizations, multinationals, government here to kind of be this bridge in between who has the passion to support.
Perfect. And talking around, you mentioned there about accelerators, and I wanted to sort of touch on that. You've been involved in many incubators and accelerators for the likes of Google, Meta, NEOM.
Yeah.
How has your involvement been within those type of programs? And are they still ongoing at the moment? Is there a way that people can get involved? I'm keen to just understand a little bit more about them.
So there are many, let me put it this way. I think the region is doing a lot of work to, to support and unlock the talent in general, to help people from passion to move to business. Let me call out few where I was involved the most. So one of the programs we launched together with Meta Q4 last year. It was the first accelerator done for gaming. We did had app businesses first, digital native businesses. However, was a lot around gaming in the region. And it wasn't the easy one to kind of get, and the team did fantastic job in order to, to get product, tailored for the region. And what I loved a lot about it as well, that we matched the MENA founders with Turkish markets, so with Turkish founders. It's like, when you want to build the best team, you want to, within the 20 feet around you, you want to have, top performers, because they all come together, and then there is a 25% more chances to succeed for this team, right? So the teams here need a lot of shortcuts. They need a lot of support because, they need to accumulate the knowledge of both success and failures. So that's program we're actually wrapping up this now. We're going to have, it was a hybrid one. We had physical event, and we're going to have one more graduation event. And the good thing about this one as well was that we blended together, user acquisition and monetization. So it was a lot around the growth, but like from the kind of looking at this from the shoes of being in the shoes of the founders, With the NEOM, I've been working for, it's going to be, I think it's 2 years now. It's actually second cohort we're running. And it's very different. The program is very different. You've got 8 top-notch mentors being involved with, work with founders. So first cohort, we had 4. This cohort, we're having 6. So for the second cohort, it's impossible to join because it's already ongoing. And however, we do time-to-time community events. So where people, let's say, who are based in Riyadh, in Jeddah, if they want to come, they can join. Or even if somebody travels from UAE and want to get to know what's happening in Saudi in gaming, they can come and join as well. And we're going to be probably announcing very soon if the third cohort is happening, what do you need to apply. So I would definitely recommend those. There was another activity, another big project, which was happening in UAE. I definitely would love to mention because we're having a semifinals next week. It's Up Olympics. It's a big thing. It's initiative of Crown Prince of Dubai. Those who want to, find him on Instagram, they can search for Faza. So it's initiative in partnership with the Dubai Chamber of Digital Economy, Entrepreneur Middle East. So imagine we sourced more than 4,000 of applications from all around the world in tech in general. There are 4 nominations, and one of them is actually dedicated to gaming this year.
Nice.
Yeah, so now through the semifinals, I cannot say how many of those companies made through. So I'm one of the jurors, super honored to be with the people at some of the top executives and entrepreneurs and business people in the region. We're talking about the executives from Emirates NBD, from Dubai Ports, from Etisalat, from Dubai Economy and Tourism Department. So this activity is, as we're going through the semifinals right now, I think it's definitely worth of checking out for the next ones, because it's a great thing to be in, because you get the learning and you get the exposure and you get the recognition of your proof of the idea itself,
Yeah, no, I was in a workshop with Dubai Chambers when they were talking around the sort of App Olympics, and it's great to see it's actually come to fruition. It's now operational and hopefully very successful as well, because I think that's something that the region does quite well, is give opportunities to those smaller startups or smaller businesses that need to catch a break. And their work's great. It's not always easy to just go out and get investment. So I think these types of programs giving you a platform to showcase. And you mentioned on there about the partnership with the Turkish sort of games industry, which notoriously was very successful in a very short period of time. So there's a lot of learnings that can come out of that region. And I think being partnered with them is only going to benefit this region when it comes to building the gaming ecosystem. But you spoke there about Riyadh and Saudi, and obviously your time is very much split between Dubai, Abu Dhabi, the rest of the UAE, and obviously in Saudi. How do you see the difference between the regions and what they're doing? And that's not maybe from a huge investment perspective, because this topic's been addressed many times when we look at what PIF are spending on gaming in comparison to maybe what Dubai is spending. But from these types of programs and from the initiatives that are being led, how do you see the difference between the UAE and Saudi, for example? And is there something that maybe one's doing considerably better than the others, which you feel they should look at that and go, well, we should be maybe doing that as well? Big question, I know.
That's a tricky one. So I would say that a lot of things happening on the ground, and not all of them are being promoted. And this is what's important as well to know, that there are different activities, that there are opportunities, but you need to very well, if for somebody, let's say, who want to come to the region, to UAE or to Saudi, it's very important to understand, like, why are you even coming here? Like, what is your vision, right? So what is this long-term goal? And we'll look at the, from this strategy perspectives for both, for UAE and for Saudi, it's very important to bring, sustainable businesses, to create the jobs here, right? To which obviously will affect the GDP. For those who are interested in the understanding why gaming, I definitely, for example, with the Saudi, I suggest looking at the esports and gaming strategy for 2030. It's very clear to understand what are the kind of the KPIs and what they want to reach. But if we come back to programs, to people, and what are doing same or different, I would say gaming is a big focus in Saudi, and there is a lot of work done in order to support Saudis. Right. So all of the programs were, I wouldn't say all of them, but majority were focused on supporting the Saudi talent. Yeah. And however, UAE, it's different, right? Because we have, it's a different type of population here. Like we got 80% of expats here. So if you look at the businesses here and gaming companies here, they are very few which were born here and grown here. It's most of them, I came here for the opportunities. And that's where this difference in profiles of the studios come, different profiles of founders. The big opportunity is actually linking those. And this is what I'm kind of doing. And this is what I really believe in, because it takes a lot of efforts for both countries to push forward the gaming industry, and both of the UAE and Saudi Arabia putting a lot of effort, energy, and great people being on the ground. However, if you imagine, experienced founders which are now based in UAE, if they could match with with founders in Saudi, that's blend would allow the whole region. To stand out, because there are different set of skills, different set of passion,
Yeah, no, I there's obviously there's studios in Saudi that are very dedicated to their arts in terms of their sort of art, the animation, the feel, and the vibe, and they've invested a lot of time and money. There's a studio there that I'm aware of that sends a lot of the local talent to Japan, trains them in the artwork, and then brings them back after a couple of years, and they're able to develop. And I think that studio, I think it's called Manga Productions, I believe, and they are obviously creating a series that may be going on to Netflix again. My information on that's a little loose, but it just shows that through partnerships with different countries, you can learn different skills and bring that back into the environment that can only drive that forward. So I think that you're right in what you're saying about the talent. Like Saudi has such a huge talent pool of local talent. The UAE, not so much. I know that Abu Dhabi Gaming, for instance, are running in sort of intern programs through the studios that partner with them to take in that local talent and upskill them. So there is initiatives in place for the local talent, but it's interesting how in which direction these end up going, because esports still is on the radar for the UAE a lot, but then it's very much on the radar for Saudi. So it's going to be an interesting battle to watch in terms of who does what when it comes to esports in particular, more so than maybe the game development piece. So while we're talking on the game development piece, and I think that obviously when you've mentioned your background and how it was involved in mobile gaming predominantly to start with, obviously it was just announced this week, which this is probably going to air in a couple of weeks. So let's say a couple of weeks ago it was announced that we're both part of a new initiative, which is the Gaming Majlis.
That's right.
Which has been set up by Mohammed El Sheikh and his gaming ventures arm, which as a collective group, and I do have a list of that group here, so I will name in case anyone watching hasn't seen that announcement or aware of it, but we are joined in our founding panel or founding board members with Ali Al-Harbi from UMX, Ali Farha from Star Sable, Anuj Tandon from Bitcraft Investment, Isa from Loba, also in Riyadh, Eric Husni from Impact 46, Gotche from Exola, Hussam from Tamatem, you've got Jalchim from Ubit, another VC arm there, which is great to see, Kareem from Yalla Play, we've got Matt Dalio from Endless Studios, MJ from Digital Dunes out in Doha, Naji from MBC Group, we've got another Naji from Huawei, Osgar from Silver Star, Saad from Game District in Pakistan. We have Cesar from ByteDance as well. And obviously this is very much in partnership with DPG 33, which is obviously headed up by Faisal, who's also on there with us. So it's a good, and I feel very privileged to be part of that great sort of array, shall I say, of individuals. And I feel that it's going to be an interesting project that we're obviously going to stumble upon to try and enhance the mobile game sort of environment, shall we say, in this region. How do you see mobile gaming playing such a big part? Because I talk to a lot of people, and there's almost everyone wants a piece of the esports pie that we've just spoke about. Or I feel that mobile gaming should be probably one of the more earmarked areas for this region. Game development can put you on a map very quickly. Mobile games can be developed and launched a lot quicker.
That's right.
With a lot less budget than if you're trying to build a AAA console game. So I feel that mobile gaming should be where people are looking and trying to churn games out quicker, try and build a portfolio, try and have 2, 3, 4 titles available. So you start to build that reputation. Like if you look at someone like a Voodoo, they were putting a game out every I lost count of how many games they put out, and those games didn't take long to make, and all of a sudden they're a very successful studio off the back of that. So how do you see mobile gaming in this region, and how much appetite do you see for it, and what do you see as the potential?
With the mobile gaming, it's the same like in general with this region. It requires a lot of testing, building testing, because for the Voodoo to have their portfolio like this, obviously they're extra how many % of games needs to be built, and how many studios they review it and products in order to publish. So mobile, it has the largest market opportunity. With mobile, you go global. You don't need to only focus on local players, even though the community here, to serve the community here, you do need to understand the nuances of the, profile of the players here. However, for any studio, it's I cannot compare it in terms of it's the fastest or not, because with mobile, there is a different trick about the go-to-market and marketing. And I do believe that now with the executive board for the mobile, it just makes sense for us to be around and be specified around mobile. Why? Because, for this to be developed, first of all, you need people who think on the level of ecosystem, not just one product, not just one company. And then when you bring people with this type of profile, they think of what are the missing things within the ecosystem in order to grow it. And plus, it's it requires operational expertise, because if you never build your own mobile game and try to scale it, you wouldn't understand what does it take to, what does it mean to go through the soft launch? What does it require? I did a lot of actually workshops around it in Saudi specifically, because and this is where it should happen, the mindset shift a little bit, especially when it comes to investment. I'll give you one of the examples. When the studio develop, let's say, their prototype, or let's say they're the tech launch, they do need, investors which understand that, let's say, soft launch phase, the testing phase, it's not the marketing phase, it's actually still product phase, because this whole phase around, understand if the product would work or not. And then you really need, deep pockets in order to go. If you want to go global, you need to go aggressive. It's a different trajectory. You cannot be gradually scaling the business. You need to go very aggressively. Plus, in something similar as well between the mobile and the this region, it's actually a lot about the partnerships and relationship, and you need to understand how to play it, because founders of the gaming studios, they need to develop all very different relationship with the different platforms, in order to succeed, in order to get the best performance out of it, understand the nuances, what are the KPIs now and today? Would my game actually make a business, or I'm already too late, or I need to fix? So for me personally, I've been involved both in mobile and in PCs. The largest titles I supported to launch were in mobile. It does require kind of a mental strength in order to do this, right?
Yeah.
Because you're basically doing the launch before you actually got any returns back. So you really need superpowered team, which did it before, didn't been there, done that, and did it both ways, succeeded and maybe didn't, to pass you this learning. Yeah. So with the Games Majilis now, I think the knowledge we're all accumulating and we're having all together, now will be the question, what's the right way and the approach to bringing back to the industry?
No, perfect. Totally agree on that. So I wanted to obviously then go back to, we spoke about you not having that traditional gaming background. Mm-hmm. We normally do a segment where it's first game you played, first console you played. So I kind of still want to touch on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. You mentioned The Sims earlier. Yeah. So when you grew up, what was your sort of memories of gaming growing up really then in that sense? Was it The Sims maybe that first sort of really stuck with you, or was there anything before that? Yeah,
before that, I would say the very first one would be board games actually, which we played at home. So my parents, my sister will just have a tradition and we will play the board games. So all of the, when you're moving on and so this element of where players together and they support each other, they're competing. And then, if you manage to get the higher number, you can kind of a shortcut. So instead of walking all the way down, you kind of a shortcut it. I very often think of it when I think of business and working with advisors or, working with coaches, because they help you to shortcut. But back to your question. So board games and then Tetris. So Tetris was my thing. We did a long trip through the Europe. It's like 10 days in the car. And my parents bought me the first Tetris. So,
was that on the Game Boy?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then Sims, and then I realized that actually I'm getting addicted to those things, and I cut them, and I stopped playing, and I didn't play. So I started playing games again only for business. So when I had to test the games, and surprisingly enough, when I found this, and my team as well, my leadership back then, realized that this is actually a strength of mine, rather than, because I was a bit of ashamed. I'm going to work in gaming. I'm not such a gaming, though, expert, right? But why it was my superpower? Because for gaming to continue growing and evolve, you need to keep engaging people who are not in gaming yet.
Yeah.
So how can you hook somebody who haven't played or have some perceptions about it, or what you need to show to them in the ad? So usually, even when I would start working with any studio on advising them or supporting them through the accelerators, I play myself before they share any pitch deck or something. So I have this very unbiased opinion about the product, which I can share later on,
No, that sounds good. And so obviously I'm guessing now you don't play much unless it's through work. Because normally I'd say, well, what's the last thing you played? But is it only the projects that you're involved in where you'll pick them up?
I played recently All in Whole. I don't even actually, who is the publisher? Mobile game.
Okay.
Mobile. Yeah.
Just mobile.
Yeah.
So then it touches me on to what excites you most about the games industry then? And that's, again, a very big question. But you mentioned, obviously, gamification earlier, the behavioural science piece. So what do you see within the games industry that makes you continue to want to be a big part of it?
Well, first of all, I love people who are involved in that. I think it's just such a great fun to, and privilege to be involved and surrounded by, the people in gaming today, because they're ready to take risks. They have passion. They're very much down to earth. Everyone is supporting everyone. So it's just a great community to be part of, Another thing is that obviously the industry is growing. And it will be growing. And that's bridge what I was telling you about, from actually just a traditional isolated gaming to use gamification in other sectors. That's what I'm very much passionate about as well, because I do believe everything going to blend very soon. You wouldn't see this, the line become very thin between, because now within the games you can do the shopping, you get experiences with the cars, and then you go and buy the car. So why wouldn't this whole be around just experience for human beings, rather than now it's e-commerce, here it's, the loans, and here it's gaming. Everything is moving to the worlds where everything is blended to us, because at the end of the day, in your mind, it all comes to the experience and feelings.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously continuous engaging with understanding deeply understanding the behavior of people from the gaming allows to both support it and then, develop new products on that base as well.
Yeah. You mentioned there about the experience piece of it and that look and the feel that drives you. What's your thoughts on the metaverse? Do you feel it still has a big place in the future? Because we in this region, I would say 18 months ago, went through a spike of metaverse where it was the new buzzword. Every meeting that I went on, I got given a headset and was like, here, look at my metaverse.
Yeah.
And some of them were great. Some of them were terrible.
Yeah.
But do you feel that still has a bigger future that people expected when it became sort of widely adopted?
I do believe in it. Let's put it this way. I think it's part of the future. I don't think it's going to cannibalize the other ways of engaging with games, for instance. However, we still need to, if we look at the numbers, the headsets adoption is increasing. It's just not increasing to the speed of what we all expected, right?
Yeah.
So if the price of per headsets would be, maybe we'll get, the headsets will get a bit more affordable for people.
Yeah.
So adoption would change. And then plus you need not just the metaverse or gaming part or visual part of it. You need things, you need products which people can use to do basic operational things, work things. So then they kind of stay longer with that. However, I wouldn't be touching now on the, how good is it for your health, how long you can use it and play it with for. But in general, wearables, I'm a big fan of it.
Okay.
So
That's an intriguing one, because obviously Apple Vision Pro didn't quite kick on as they'd hoped. When they launched it, I was very excited. I was like, I'll get one of those.
Yeah.
I'll give that a go. But then when you start looking at the price point of it, maybe some restrictions around it. Like, because it stood out to me that you could work from it, and I'd be sat there like Iron Man, like moving stuff around, and or from a gaming or immersive, it was sort of full wrap around, to the point that it would just be a very solo activity in terms of you'd have to sit there with this headset on and no one else around you would have it on. It'd be very weird in that situation. I agree with you in the wearables side of things. I think that wearables definitely, nowadays everyone's got an Apple Watch or the Whoop bands or the health rings or whatever it might be. So I think that wearables have been very much adopted. And you've got the new Meta Ray-Bans that, again, are moving in the direction that people want wearables to be. They want it still has to have that street cred to it. And unfortunately, your Oculus and your Vision Pro just aren't quite there yet. Maybe over time they will, but it's intriguing because when we talk about gamification and metaverse and merging it all together, trying to create that all-rounded experience where everything is seamless. So you go into an experience, you can play games, and I think that gamification piece is where it falls into that, is that everything around you becomes entertainment. And I think that's where that piece could really kick off.
I agree with you. And I think you mentioned something interesting about the social aspect, is that for the adoption to kind of pick it up, it's very important for you to be able to use it with somebody else or engage with somebody else. So, before the COVID, the even adoption of online calls wasn't really there. Like, people were using it, but still when they had the opportunity to meet in person, they would do it in person, right? Now, people who live in the same city and sometimes live nearby, they still do online calls, right?
You've hit a very sensitive point there, because obviously we, as a recruitment business predominantly, is when we schedule interviews for somebody that lives 5 minutes from an office, I'm old school. Where's that human interaction? Why is that person not having a face-to-face interview where you can look at the colour of their eyes, you can actually read them? It should never be done over VC, in my opinion, unless it's logistically unavailable. Face-to-face interviews and face-to-face interactions still have to be part of human life. Right. And I think that where you mentioned there is everyone has adopted technology, maybe too much in places though. That's the only problem. I see that.
You know why else we should do in person? Because tell me, let's say 2 years from now, how would you be able to distinguish me real from me actually being avatar with my voice, with my whole visuals, with actually all tracked my experiences without meeting somebody in person?
Yep.
Your intuition, I don't know how to explain it. There is a lot of research obviously around it. It's a big topic. However, if you don't meet somebody in person, it's very hard to do this, right? It's very hard to distinguish.
It's going to be even harder to decipher. Like you mentioned, we met with a gentleman this week who is in the business of digital humans, and it's all avatar based, and they look incredible. And they're built off the most latest technologies, and the team building them are fantastic. Now, you through that can take on your own digital human. And again, with AI integration, there's no reason why you couldn't dump that avatar on an interview with an AI input to it, or a chat or an agent with it, where it can answer everything in your voice.
Exactly.
So no, we're going into some sort of scary realm here, so I think we need to rein it back in. But it's true. The way technology and the way that graphics and AI and everything that very much touches gaming. And I think that people forget that all of that stuff touches gaming. AI is very heavy. Every game that you play has an AI element of it and has 100%. Done for years. Yep. It's not like new AI is this new buzz. NPCs within games have always been AI driven. How advanced they are is only based on the technology. But yeah, I think that human interaction still has to become a huge part of real life, because otherwise we could end up in what was that movie, the Spielberg one? It's going to bug me now if I can't think of the name.
I wish I can help. Sorry, I can't as well.
Ready Player One.
Yes.
Where everyone lived in an interactive world, and everyone's human interaction disappeared. and is very much that could become the case.
Yeah.
And hopefully not.
We need to get, I mean, when you're aware of something, you can prepare, right?
Yeah.
So it's a time to prepare to hire your own AI agents. It's a time to think of what are you sharing. It's a time to think of, okay, what you wouldn't share actually just in case, or what is actually makes you so unique rather than a robot out there. Because right now I have a copy of myself, which I was preparing to use for the social media, for instance, and you wouldn't ever distinguish me.
I thought you were going to say you're going to send her in here today.
Actually, when we had a call with you about and we're brainstorming about this podcast, is I was actually thinking, because both of our AIs joined, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, both of them already know that yours knows from your calls about, how you usually prep for the podcast, and mine knows everything was about my story. We actually didn't need to be on that call if we wouldn't want to engage with each other. So if, let's say, next time, if somebody doesn't want to meet with a person, he just can send the, AI agent. So it's good that we still want to interact with each other. We still have this interest of, knowing each other personally.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've come to the end of the show.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining me today. Absolute pleasure. I think we could have gone off on a weird tangent here for the next hour or so, but absolute pleasure, and thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. Thank you.
Good. And thank you very much for joining us for this episode. We hope you enjoyed that one, and we'll see you again soon.